Good morning. It's my pleasure to call this meeting of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to order. Today is August 28th, 2019. The time is 9:30 a.m. With us today are Commissioner Emily Lindley and our General Counsel, Mary Smith. I'm John Neerman, and Ms. Smith, I'll ask you to call the first item.
Item number 1 is consideration of the motions to overturn the Executive Director's reapproval of the application by Medcare Environmental Services, Incorporated. Today, Representative Blanco is here in attendance, and a staff member from Senator Jose Rodriguez's office, and they have both asked to speak on this item. As is the Commission's custom, members of the legislature may make remarks about pending contested matters before the commissioners begin their deliberations. So I recommend that we begin with Representative Blanco and Ms. Tamayo from Senator Rodriguez's office, allowing them 10 minutes. The movant should speak next, followed by the applicant, the ED, and OPIC in that order. By letter dated August 9th, 2019, the General Counsel's Office provided the following oral argument time limits. The movants have 10 minutes collectively. The applicant has 10 minutes. The ED has 5 minutes, and OPIC has 5 minutes, and the movants may save time for rebuttal as they bear the burden of proof.
Representative Blanco, good morning. Yeah, come on up, sir. Thank you. And make sure that the light's on the mic, and just restate your name for the record and then proceed.
Okay. Good morning, State Representative Blanco, and I'm here against the application. Just to be clear, does my time take any time from?
No.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lindley, Director Baker. Thank you all for your service to our state and the leadership on environmental issues. I have the fortune of serve on the Environmental Reg Committee, and you all do great work day in and day out. Again, for the record, I'm State Representative Cesar Blanco, House District 76 in El Paso. I also want to thank and acknowledge my fellow El Pasoans who have made the trip here. Not a short way, it's a long way from El Paso, and especially as we're dealing through this tragic event in El Paso. We have City Representative Claudia Ordaz Perez joining us today, as well as El Paso County Commissioner Vince Perez, and we'll hear from our senator as well. As you know, I'm here in opposition to the medical waste processing registration number 40294 to Medcare Environmental Solutions. Since last summer, we've opposed the application and subsequent initial registration. As you know, I requested a public meeting along with our fellow representatives here today in El Paso, Texas, to give our community and our constituents the opportunity to learn and to voice their concerns regarding the proposed medical waste facility. The public meeting in El Paso was held in October of last year, and since then, we've heard from numerous constituents, local leaders at every level of government who oppose the facility for a variety of reasons. As their duly elected state representative, I'm also here to speak and oppose this registration on their behalf. I appreciate the Commission's prior to decision to overturn and remand Medicare's registration, and we're here again today because the Executive Director reapproved the registration. However, after filing for a second time motions to overturn on various grounds, namely on land use compatibility and buffer zone requirements, we are optimistic of the Executive Director's latest recommendation to grant the motions to overturn and to deny the application. As mentioned in the Executive Director's latest recommendation and the Office of Public Interest Counsel's latest brief, the previous recommendations by the Executive Director relied on faulty, inaccurate, and unsubstantiated data cited and provided by the applicant, who the burden falls on. While Medcare application stated that there were 266 residents within 1 mile of the proposed facility, that number is closer to 6,700 based on a lot of the information that our County Commissioner Vince Perez and Representative Claudia Ordaz's team put together in coordination with our office. The Isleta Independent School District reports that there are 3,300 students that live within 1 mile of the proposed facility. The applicant has admitted it erred in its application regarding the number of residents. And then Medcare application also failed to include the Isleta del Sur Pueblo in their application. This is a local government, a community of unique and historic religious and cultural significance. There are 87,847 acres of tribal-owned land within 1 mile of the proposed facility, on which nearly 200 tribal members reside. OPIC acknowledged in its brief that Isleta del Sur Pueblo should not have been omitted, and this deficiency alone merits overturning the registration. Furthermore, the executive director also recognized that when the activities and operations of Medcare increase as planned, they could easily be in violation of a buffer zone requirements because they did not elect to request an alternative buffer zone. Current and future activities must not occur in the 25-foot buffer. In his recommendation to grant the motions to overturn and to deny the application, the executive director recognizes that there was false information in the Medcare application, which the executive director has cited as grounds of denial by itself. However, the executive director also acknowledged that in light of the information provided by the movants, the proposed site is not compatible with existing land use in the area, which is unique and different from those other locations approved for medical waste facility. OPIC also acknowledged that we, the movants, include elected representatives from every level of tribal, state, county, and city government, and that we're in the best position to obtain and assess the most relevant information and factors associated with the public interest in the proposed vicinity of this facility. I believe that the concerns of the residents, concerns raised from our constituents, local leaders in El Paso, including the entire legislative delegation from El Paso, 5 representatives and a senator, and the sheer volume of constituents who continue to oppose the registration, we believe that the public interest is very clear. And in that spirit, along with the application's deficiencies related to false information, related to land use compatibility, the omission of the Isleta del Sur Pueblo nation, and concerns of buffer zone requirements, that I strongly urge the Commission to grant the motions to overturn and deny the application as the Executive Director has also recommended. And with that, I close.
Thank you, Representative. We appreciate you being here this morning. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the Commission.
Ms. Tamayo. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chairman Eman and Commissioner Lindley. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of Senator Rodriguez. The Senator remains, I think I'm going to echo a lot of what Representative Blanco said very accurately. So the Senator remains in full support of the filed motions to overturn, and given his prior correspondence on this permit, his comments today are brief. The Mission Valley is a truly special place with a deep history as one of the oldest settlements in North America and a rich agricultural tradition that lives today. Land use compatibility is a significant factor in assessing whether the permit should be issued. Notably, the proposed facility would be in a narrow wedge of industrial zoned property surrounded by residential neighborhoods. The applicant incorrectly identified the number of residential properties within 1 mile of the proposed facility as 266. The applicant now acknowledges that within 1 mile of the proposed facility, there are approximately 4,300 single-family parcels, 82 duplexes, 2 triplexes, 2 quadruplexes, 2 sixplexes, and 12 commercial apartment complexes. 2 multifamily public housing complexes, a 117-unit manufactured home community, and 108 single-family residences within the Isleta del Sur Pueblo. The 1 mile radius also encompasses the Isleta Mission. Finally, as noted by the Isleta Independent School District, 3,300 students live within this radius. As commissioners, you have the discretion and authority to find that the application contained false information and to deny it. Again, the Senator joins the other movements and respectfully asks that you accept the Executive Director's recommendation to grant the motions to overturn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tamayo. And we have the movements next, I believe. Mr. Perez?
Thank you. For the record, my name is Vince Pettis. I serve as County Commissioner for Precinct 3 in El Paso County. Good morning, Chairman Neerman, Commissioner Lindley, General Counsel Smith, Executive Director Baker, Office of Public Interest Counsel. Thank you once again for placing this item on your agenda for oral argument and for affording us the opportunity to speak on the application for Medcare Environmental Solutions. We appreciate the Commission's April 24th decision to remand this application to the Executive Director for further review regarding land use, and we concur with the Executive Director's recommendation that the Commission grant the motions to overturn and deny the application as it contains false information, and Medcare's attempts to now rectify its errors during this motion to overturn phase is simply too late. In its application, Medcare concluded that 266 residential properties exist within 1 mile of the proposed facility. This figure was used to support the Executive Director's reassessment of land use compatibility. In the Executive Director's June 21st correspondence, it notes that his office had evaluated and approved a medical waste facility with a maximum of 2,600 residences within 1 mile, and that on average, there are 920 residences within 1 mile of all approved medical waste facilities in Texas. Based on a substantial review of publicly available data, the total number of residential units within the 1 mile radius is not 266, as the applicant originally claimed, but 6,765, an error that's off the mark by 2,400%. Yet the applicant inexplicably proclaims that the proposed facility is still compatible with all land uses, even though their original land use maps are also incorrect, and they have attempted to resubmit new maps as part of this motion to overturn process as well. The actual number of residences in this case is 255% higher than the maximum figure the Executive Director has ever approved, and 750% higher than the average figure for all medical waste facilities in Texas. I'd be remiss if I didn't once again mention the facility's proximity to residents, which is 80 feet. Meanwhile, the distance from home plate to first base is 90 feet. As the Executive Director notes, the rules require an applicant to provide his office with data of sufficient completeness, accuracy, and clarity, and to provide assurance that the operation of the site will pose no endangerment of the human health and welfare or the environment. Instead of fulfilling this obligation to the Executive Director, in its current response to the motions to overturn, the applicant submitted a magazine article titled, "Medical Waste Not as Dangerous as Its Stigma Suggests." This article does not even pertain to the processing of medical waste, nor the facilities required for treatment, and makes no mention of land use compatibility of industrial waste processing facilities in residential areas. The Executive Director also notes that based on information provided by the movants and the applicant's response to the motions to overturn, Medcare's land use map contained in its application is also inaccurate. The applicant failed to respond to NOD 2 item number 34, requesting a revision to drawing 1-6 in Medcare's application to more clearly show a land use and zoning map within 1 mile of the proposed facility. The Texas Administrative Code requires the applicant to provide a land use map, which is required to show any existing zoning on or surrounding the property, as well as actual uses, both within the facility and within 1 mile of the facility. But the amended land use map provided by Medcare in their application misrepresents both the zoning and the actual land uses surrounding the proposed facility. The applicant's land use map erroneously shows land that is owned as C1, which is considered neighborhood commercial, and it shows it as industrial land. I don't know if we're able to get well, this slide here shows the density. If we're able to get the next slide up, we can show the areas with the thick red borders in the exhibit are the areas misrepresented by Medcare as light industrial, but these are actually zoned as neighborhood commercial, and any light industrial uses would be prohibited. In the lower right corner, Medcare's illustration shows a parcel of land as light industrial, but it's actually restricted by ordinance to school use. Not only does the applicant misrepresent zoning districts, they completely omit actual land uses as required by the Texas Administrative Code. An examination of this data show that of the 195 acres zoned for light industrial use, within 1 mile of the facility, only 12%, or 23.8 acres, is actually used for light industrial purpose, which is illustrated on the next slide. This directly contradicts Medcare's representation in their revised land use map of the area that falsely depicts the entire 195 acres as industrial land uses. The character of the industrially zoned area is predominantly commercial, and as such, the zoning of the area is not representative of the land use in the area. Again, something that the applicant falsely depicts, misrepresents, or omits in the application. As the executive director states in his August 6th response to the MTOs, quote, "It is the applicant's responsibility to ensure the accuracy of the information in its application. Moreover, Medcare has had many opportunities during which it could have provided current and updated information," end quote. When analyzing the number of residences within 1 mile, or the land use maps by the applicant, it is clear that the application includes false information, and we respectfully hope the Commission will follow the Executive Director's recommendation to grant the motions to overturn and deny the application. As stated in their response to the motions to overturn, the applicant will likely reiterate that the false information contained in their application was unintentional, but the scope and magnitude of their errors cannot be overlooked, as this information was critical in the Executive Director's land use analysis. And it is worth noting a footnote that the Executive Director included in his August 6th response to the motions to overturn regarding the definition of false, which Black's Law Dictionary defines as untrue, but it also notes the word false has two well-recognized meanings. One, intentionally or knowingly or negligently untrue, and two, untrue by mistake or accident or honestly after the exercise of reasonable care. It cannot be denied that the false information in their application is materially false, and the motions to overturn should be granted and the application denied. I thank you for your time, and I yield to Representative Ordaz.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Claudia Ordaz Perez, El Paso City Councilwoman for District 6. Good morning, Chairman Neerman and Commissioner Lindley and everyone present. My comments today are largely going to be focused on the issues of land use compatibility and statements made by the applicant in reference to the character of the area. Within a 1 mile radius of the proposed site, there are 7 schools, 5 churches, 5 parks, and just within 80 feet from property lines of existing and established residential neighborhoods. The applicant states in his application that the proposed land use is compatible with current growth trends in the surrounding area. If you want to move to the next slide, I can tell you that there is no such evidence to support this claim. As a matter of fact, an examination of surrounding development shows that growth within a 2 mile radius of the facility shows growth trends of multi-family residential complexes and low-intensity neighborhood commercial development. Notably, you can see in this chart, close to half a mile away, there is a 360-unit apartment complex under development, a 216-unit apartment complex that was built in 2018, just a little over a mile away, and a 96-unit apartment complex built in 2016 within 1 mile. As City Councilwoman for the area, just in my time in office, we have invested close to $4 million to these surrounding parks and libraries because of the growing residential demand for services. The notion that people are moving from the fringes of the city to the urban core and that this area is trending towards industrial uses is not supported by any data provided by the applicant. Throughout the course of this process, from my observation, Medcare has made misrepresentations to the city of El Paso, and as discussed here, there has been false and misleading information contained in its application. This has not been limited to these TCEQ proceedings, but also the information provided to the local level as well. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the Commission grant this motion to overturn and deny this application, and I'll yield any of my remaining time for rebuttal. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. Mr. Rodriguez for the applicant. Good morning, sir.
Morning. My name is Art Rodriguez, for the record, with Russell Rodriguez Hyde Bullock. We represent Medicare Environmental Solutions in this case. I want to thank the chairman, Commissioner Lindley, Ms. Smith, and staff, as well as the Office of Public Interest Counsel and all the other move-ins that have come to provide comments this morning. This case has been complicated by land use compatibility issues that we don't believe actually are as problematic as the move-ins have indicated in this case. If we can go to the next slide, I want to begin by saying the application itself did contain information with respect to land uses, respect to the number of residences, number of commercial parcels within a mile of the area. The information, unfortunately, during the application process was not as robust as it should have been. We've acknowledged that and made the corrections to that. Quite honestly, the engineer at the time that was providing the information misread the statute with respect to the 1 mile and provided information with respect to a quarter mile. Upon realizing that during this motion overturn process, he immediately began to work on amending the application and submitting more updated data to the commission. It was not intended in any way to be it was not an intentional mistake by the engineer that as far as we understand, it was an innocent error that has since been corrected. So if we go on to the land use, which is the next several slides are going to show you what we're actually talking about here. This is Billy the Kid Street. This is where the actual site is actually going to be placed. If you look at the left side, these are all Google Map drawings of it. If you see with the red there is Billy the Kid, and it's difficult to tell from these angles here, but Billy the Kid is a dead-end street. There's only one way in, one way out of that street that goes to Zaragoza Street, which is a main thoroughfare. There is no houses, residences, anything like that on Billy the Kid. The only persons that have reason to be going down Billy the Kid Street are people that are trying to access those businesses or the businesses themselves. This is not a heavily traveled road for school buses, not heavily traveled road for any kind of residences in the area. Residents can't access their property from Billy the Kid, where the Medicare facilities sought to be located. If you go on to the next slide, the city zoning map actually shows the entirety of the area that the Medicare facility seeks to place themselves is bordered by the Juan de Herrera main lateral, which is an approximately 80-foot buffer area automatically between the Medicare facility and the neighboring subdivision. It's also on the south side has a railroad track that goes right through the property, as well as many other industrial properties in there. That whole area that is highlighted in purple is zoned M1, which is light manufacturing by the city of El Paso. And all the properties in there, including the Medicare facility, is in that zone. If we go on to the next slide, this is actually where the Medicare facility is and what it actually looks at from these are all Google Earth photos that show not only just the industrial nature of the area that they're seeking to locate, but also just the type of businesses that are there. We see multiple 18-wheel trucks there, railroad, single entrances to and from Medicare facility. These are large facilities that are not frankly, if the Medicare facility isn't compatible with the neighborhoods, then I'm not sure any of these others would be either. These types of businesses here are specifically designed and in this area because of the access to the main road, because of the access to the railroad. these are all businesses that are industrial in nature. That's why they're placed at this area. If we go on to the next slide, we'll see what the neighbors are. This is the neighbor just to the immediate northwest, north and west part of the Medcare facility. It is Lumar. It's a logistics company that does importing and exporting. You can see from this side that they actually use 18-wheel trucks to bring materials to and from the site on Billy the Kid Drive. The next property further north than that is this was a February 2019 Google picture. You can see 18-wheel trucks as well as a lot of storage that occurs outside. It is the Swimming Santa outlet manufacturing outlet store there. If we go on to the next thing, this is from the building at the very bottom here would be the Medcare facility, and that is looking southward. If you look southward, you can see the Lumar site to the left, as well as a logistics company just to the immediate left of the site. I'm sorry, Lumar's to the right, the logistics company to the left. You see the railroad track, as well as more industrial businesses right across the street from it. And beyond that is where there's more residential area. So again, highlighting the fact that where Medcare is locating is consistent with the other land uses right immediately to the east, west, and south of the property. If we go on to the next slide, this right here, that expanse there, the white line, that faint white line that you see there, is about 79 foot expanse between the property line of Medcare and then the nearest residence to it. Now, if we've got the 25-foot buffer that's required by the rules, there's not going to be any facilities loading, unloading, or actually processing facilities for over 100 feet to that property that's directly to the east of the Medcare facility. So if we go on to the next slide, so what we're looking at here is that it's in a facility that's already an industrial facility. There, because of the buffer areas, the natural buffer areas that the main lateral provides, as well as the railroad, as well as the industrial nature of the complex, there are no impacted residences by this facility. The rules of the TCEQ have been designed to protect the environment. And in that, the commission has adopted a 25-foot buffer for this type of facility. 25 feet. We quadruple that distance to the nearest residence. And when you look at just the nature of it with respect in relation to the larger area that it's in, the industrial area that it's in, it's a very consistent use. There's not room on this site to be having the heavy 18-wheel trucks like the other neighbors around there. The use of the Medcare facility will be much reduced than what its neighbors are. So going on to the next slide here, the important thing to remember here is that we went back one, please. Okay, well, my apologies there. Apparently it didn't come up. But the important thing to remember here is that the distance to a nearest resident is 4 times the buffer zone requirement from the TCEQ itself. And quite honestly, when you've got a town with over 600,000 people in it, and it's got a need for medical waste processing because of the growing nature of the community, all the growth that they're experiencing means greater health care, meaning greater need for this type of facility. Now, in a town of 600,000 people, to be able to find a site that has within a mile minimal or very few residences would be a logistical impossibility. And Medcare's facility fills that need in a site that meets basically the requirements. You don't want neighbors to be impacted by this facility. And that site is I would argue, would be an almost perfect location for a medical waste processing facility. So what we're asking for today is that Medcare's already made a significant investment in the site. It's already made a significant investment in the application and already has made a significant investment in seeking customers for the area. What we're asking for is obviously to deny the motions to overturn, or in the alternative, remand it back like you did the last time for a re-examination based on the new updated information that the applicants provided regarding land use compatibility. So as I close, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Executive Director.
Good morning, Chairman Neerman, Commissioner Lindley, General Counsel, and Office of Public Interest Counsel. I'm Kayla Murray of the Environmental Law Division, and with me today is Chance Gooden, Manager of the Municipal Solid Waste Permit Section in the Waste Permits Division. Senator Jose Rodriguez, Representative Cesar Blanco, El Paso County Commissioner Vincent Perez, Policy Advisor Joaquin Rodriguez, Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Ordaz Perez, the El Paso Legislative Delegation, the Isleta Independent School District, the Isleta del Cerro Pueblo, and approximately 175 individuals submitted motions to overturn the Executive Director's approval of a registration for a medical waste processing facility issued to Medcare Environmental Solutions. The Executive Director carefully considered the issues raised in the MTOs and, as stated in his response, is particularly concerned by the new information that revealed the number of residences within 1 mile of the facility is actually 6,765 residences and not 266 residences as submitted in the application. The ED relied on the information submitted in the application as being accurate. It was signed and sealed by the applicant's engineer as being accurate. However, the applicant now admits that the information in its application regarding the number of residences is in error. Information that is not correct is false. TCQ rules address the consequences for submitting false information in a medical waste registration application. 30 Texas Administrative Code Rule 326.61G states, submission of false information shall constitute grounds for denial of the registration application. Since the application contained false information, the Executive Director recommends granting the MTOs and denying Medcare's application. Thank you. We are available for questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Lindley, how are we doing over here? Do you have any questions? Or?
No questions so far. Thank you.
Thank you. OPIC.
Good morning. I'm Vic McWhorter. Dominique McLegan-Brown is here with me. Together, we prepared OPIC's brief included in your agenda backup materials. OPIC recommends granting the motions and overturning the Medcare registration. As noted by the Executive Director, Rule 326.61 requires an applicant to provide data of sufficient completeness, accuracy, and clarity to provide assurance that operations will pose no endangerment to human health, welfare, or the environment. Medcare failed to meet this requirement. It filed an insufficient, defective application. This fact alone warrants overturning the registration. We also recommend granting the motions because of substantive land use issues. After considering the factors to be evaluated under Rule 326.71, OPIC has concluded the facility would have an adverse impact on the community. The record shows the facility would be incompatible with current land use in the area given the large number of nearby residences and the predominantly residential character of the area, community growth patterns, nearby schools with an enrollment of 3,300 children as cited by the school district, and the proximity of unique sites of religious, historic, and cultural significance. For all these reasons, we respectfully recommend the Commission grant these motions and overturn issuance of the Medcare registration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McWhorter. Ms. Perez, I believe the movements have a minute for rebuttal if you'd like to take it.
Just a couple of notes. Again, to reiterate that there is a difference between the zoning map and the actual land use map. Again, the zoning in this case is not reflective of the actual land use map, and that was referenced in my comments previously. So when referring to storage and logistic facilities, they're not industrial processing facilities, and that's just something I'd wanted to respond to something that was mentioned. In regards to the fact that Billy the Kid Street is a dead-end street and not impacting residents, Zaragoza is a major thoroughfare that goes from I-10 to Border Highway, so it would have a significant impact on residents in that respect. There is also an existing medical waste facility about 25 miles east in Horizon City that's authorized for 45 tons of processing medical waste per day, and a lot of their medical waste is imported from New Mexico. So when they come and say that there is a significant need in the community for this, their application stated that a lot of the waste that they would be processing would be coming from other parts of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, and that's already the case with the existing medical waste facility just 25 miles east of this location.
Thank you, and I'll ask you to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Commissioner, we've heard quite a bit this morning. I have some thoughts that
I have thoughts
ready
as well,
to share. I'm happy
love
to hear from you first, if you want to go first, or
I can. I guess first, thanks to everyone that traveled here. El Paso is quite far away, and y'all have had so much going on, but our thoughts have been with you, and we're glad you're here today. And I want to thank everyone's extensive review on this, all our staff, everyone involved. Let me start by saying that I tend to agree with the applicant's filing that there's generally an unwarranted fear surrounding medical waste processing facilities. Packaged waste is loaded at the facility into a truck. It is driven into the waste or medical waste recycling facility. It's unloaded. It's put into an autoclave. It's treated with heat and water, not fancy chemicals that we can't pronounce, and then it's taken to a disposal site. These facilities do provide a real, and I would argue, needed service to communities. And I would even note that I believe that these facilities generally have a small impact on their surrounding communities. That said, I also agree with the executive director that the application failed to provide accurate information in their application, and they did have multiple chances to correct it. It's very important that applicants provide the correct and complete information so that this agency can do its job. The correction in the applicant's responses to a second wave of MTOs, was, as the ED stated, too little, too late. And so because of that, I would support granting the MTOs. And, intentional or not, we can't issue a registration based on false information. Those are my points I wanted to make.
I appreciate that. And those thoughts largely parallel mine. Your sense about the unwarranted fears, I agree that that there's a stigma about medical waste processing facilities that's greater than the actual burden or risk. But there is some burden or risk, and we have to account for that, and we can't assume that it's trivial. Compared to some of the entities that we authorize, the impacts would be small, but that's not to say that they would be small on this community and in this location. And I agree, too, that El Paso could benefit from additional medical waste processing capacity. And I've been struggling quite a bit on the land use compatibility issue, really leading up to the briefing on this second round of MTOs. And it's challenging because it goes a little bit outside our core competency of protecting public health and the environment. Land use compatibility asks us to engage in a different additional exercise, and the authorities that we have on that are a little thin. So there's really very little in the way of objective criteria on which to make those analyses. But I agree with you, as it turns out in this case, because of the errors in the application, this is not such a difficult case anymore. You know, I think that the errors make it so that this registration can't be supported on the application, and I agree with what we heard from the movements and the executive director and OPIC that we should grant the MTOs and deny this registration. I also want to add that I have real concerns about this particular site, given that there is a high concentration of residences very near to this site. I think that we could deny this registration for land use compatibility issues independent from the application, even if the application had no flaws. But I propose that we not reach that particular finding today.
I would agree. My opinion is that it would be denied on the false information provided, and for that reason only, it was my opinion. And I can make a motion if you would like me to,
I'm
or
ready
if
to
you
hear
have
a
other
motion.
thoughts. Okay.
Thank you.
I move that we overturn the executive director's reissuance of registration number 40294 to Medcare Environmental Solutions Incorporated, and deny Medcare Environmental Solutions Incorporated's registration application because Medcare submitted false information as provided in 30 Texas Administrative Code 326.61G.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
Item number 2 is the application by the City of South Houston for a major amendment with renewal of Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit number WQ001-0287-001. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions. Those signed in will be noted for the record. And the exit. Oh, sorry. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Lindley, we have 8 hearing requests on this matter. Ms. Bearfield, Ms. Gray, Ms. Myers, and Mr. Patterson have all raised personally justiciable issues. They all live near the facility and either on or near the discharge route, so I would grant their requests. I would deny the remaining requests for the following reasons. Ms. Gonzalez failed to raise a personally justiciable issue in her comments. Ms. Vaughn likewise failed to raise such issues. Both Bayou City Waterkeepers and Caring for Pasadena Communities base their standing on members who live a considerable distance away from the facility, and because they don't have standing, wouldn't have standing in their own right, the associations can't have standing.
I would agree.
Okay, and in terms of issues, there are numerous issues that relate to a mercury limit that I think could probably be captured in a single issue, and another issue concerning compliance history. I think the remaining issues are either not relevant or were raised by parties that are not going to be given affected party status.
I would agree. And yeah, if you're ready, I can start a motion that hopefully captures everything.
Yeah, I think I'd include an ADR referral and maybe give SOA sort of the standard 180 days.
I would agree.
I'm ready for a motion.
With that, I move that we grant the hearing requests of Amy Bearfield, Lisa Gray, Lauren Myers, and Benjamin Randall Patterson, that we deny the remaining hearing requests and all requests for consideration, that we refer the matter to the Commission's Alternative Dispute Resolution Program to run concurrently with the SOA preliminary hearing scheduling efforts, that we refer the matter to SOA for a contested case hearing on the following issues. A, whether the draft permit should include a total mercury effluent limitation to adequately protect the health of the requesters and their families, wildlife, aquatic life, and under the applicable Texas surface water quality standards, the water quality and uses of the receiving waters. And B, whether the applicant's compliant history raises issues regarding the applicant's ability to comply with the material terms of the permit that warrant denying or altering the terms of the draft permit. That we deny the remaining issues, and that we specify that the maximum duration of the hearing is 180 days from the preliminary hearing to issuance of the proposal for decision.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
Item number 3 is consideration of whether to affirm, modify, or set aside the emergency order appointing a temporary manager for the public water system owned and operated by Castle Water Incorporated. The ED should speak first as the movant, followed by the respondent if present. Hearing requesters, presently there are none here. And the temporary manager, who I also believe is not here, then OPIC. The General Counsel's Office recommends a 5-minute time limit on each party's presentation, and the ED may reserve time for rebuttal.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. My name is Adam Taylor with the Litigation Division representing the Executive Director. With me today is Logan Harrell, also with the Litigation Division, Adriana Thomas of the Water Supply Division, and Crystal Watkins of the Dallas-Fort Worth Regional Office. Item 3 is the emergency order appointing a temporary manager of the Horseshoe Bend Water System owned and operated by Castle Water Incorporated. On November 2nd, 2018, TCEQ referred Castle Water to the Office of the Attorney General for civil enforcement, including the appointment of a receiver. On June 17th, 2019, 17 days before the emergency order was issued, TCEQ began receiving multiple complaints regarding the water utility. For 12 out of the 17 days, TCEQ received multiple complaints on a near daily basis that the water utility was not providing water. TCEQ documented that the water utility did not have a licensed water operator, that they failed to maintain the disinfectant chlorine residuals, that the chlorine canisters at the pump stations were marked full but were actually empty, that 2 of the wells were no longer producing water, and that for 16 of the 17 days, they failed to provide the regulatory minimum pressure of 35 pounds per square inch in the distribution system. In short, the water utility was abandoned because of these numerous issues, all of which posed significant health hazards to the 1,700 customers it serves. Because of this, on July 3rd, 2019, the Executive Director issued an emergency order appointing Mark Patterson as temporary manager for the water utility. The water utility is currently providing continuous and adequate service to the customers, and no complaints have been received since Mr. Patterson was appointed. The Executive Director respectfully requests that you affirm the July 3rd, 2019 emergency order with the modifications recommended by the Executive Director to correct minor typographical errors, to accurately reflect the facts related to the investigation, and to require Castle Water to provide Mr. Patterson with all the utility records necessary to ensure continuous operation of the utility and to provide continuous and adequate service to the customers. We are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I have none. Commissioner Lindley?
No questions, thank you.
And I understand there's no one wishing to speak for the respondent and no hearing requesters. And Mr. Patterson is not here, so we will hear from OPIC.
OPIC recommends approval of the proposed order modifying the emergency order appointing Mr. Mark Patterson as temporary manager of this utility as presented by the Executive Director.
I agree, and even though he's not here, I do want to thank Mr. Patterson for taking this on. Commissioner, I think we should go ahead and approve this modified order.
I agree, and I believe this is Region 4. Crystal, is that where you're from? Yeah, thanks to the region's work and the Office of Water and Litigation's work on staying on top of this. So with that, I move that we adopt the ED's proposed order modifying and affirming the July 3rd, 2019 emergency order appointing Mark Patterson as temporary manager for Castle Water Incorporated.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 4 is the consideration of an administrative order for the Mineral Wool Insulation Manufacturing Company State Superfund site. The ED is the moving party and should present the matter, followed by any interested persons. Currently, none are signed in. And finally, OPIC. The General Counsel's Office recommends limiting the parties to 5 minutes for presentations, and the Executive Director's staff is here to present the item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, General Counsel, Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I'm Cullen McMorrow with the Litigation Division. With me is Monica Harris of the Remediation Division. Item number 4 is an administrative order to conduct a remedial action for the Mineral Wool Insulation Manufacturing State Superfund site located in the city of Rogers, Bell County, Texas. As part of the Superfund process, TCEQ has completed its remedial investigation of the 19-acre site. The site's soils, sediments, and surface water are contaminated with metals above protective concentration levels. Groundwater has not been affected. After the appropriate notice and comment period, the Executive Director selected an on-site containment cell and institutional controls as the remedy for the contaminated media. The Executive Director has identified 6 responsible parties. The responsible parties were given the opportunity to fund or conduct remedial activities. However, no good faith offers to perform the remedial action were received. 4 of the responsible parties have since entered into a settlement for a monetary payment. The Executive Director respectfully recommends issuing this administrative order for a remedial action at the site pursuant to Chapter 361 of the Health and Safety Code. Thank you, and we are available to answer any questions you may have.
And I do have one question, if you could provide some insight on how you arrived at the settlements with the 4 settling parties, not just the process, but also how you quantified those claims.
Yes, the 4 parties, 3 of them are members of the same family, and then a corporate entity that they had. They did a financial ability review that our financial staff had a pretty thorough back and forth with them about their assets and income and that type of thing. We then considered the factors that are in the rules. So financial inability is one of the factors in the rules, but some of the other factors have to do with what actions the party may have taken with regard to the waste. In this case, they passively owned the property, so they took no specific actions to create the problem. So factoring all the factors in the rule, we came up with a amount that was satisfactory to all sides.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Lindley, any questions?
Just one quick question, just curious more than anything. The addition of, let's see, Rebecca Allen LLC, I read that that entity, excuse me, did not own the property until December 13, 2016. How did that come about? She became a listed PRP, or I should say the entity, it's an LLC, but I guess I'm just curious on how that came about later in the process. If you could just walk me through it real quick.
Yeah, so the Health and Safety Code 361.271 states the factors that make someone a responsible party. Current ownership of a site that has not had a remedial action performed yet would be one of those factors. So as a current owner of the site, she was named, or her entity was
Who
named.
owned it before her? Do you know?
It was,
I was kind of curious, was it inherited property, or did she?
we have not seen a bill of sale or an actual
Okay.
contract, but it appears to have been purchased
Okay.
from the previous owner.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I understand there are no interested persons who want to speak, so we'll hear from OPIC.
OPIC recommends approval of this administrative order as presented by the Executive Director.
Thank you. I agree. I think the order is appropriate, and I think we ought to move ahead to protect the environment and
I
perhaps
agree.
put this land back into productive use.
I agree. I move that we adopt the ED's proposed administrative order concerning the Mineral Wool Insulation Manufacturing Company State Superfund site.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Items number 5 and 6 are consideration for adoption of 2 total maximum daily loads and the corresponding implementation plan for indicator bacteria in the Navasota River below Lake Limestone in the Brazos River Basin. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, I am Kerry Neiman with the Water Quality Planning Division in the Office of Water. With me today is Chris Loft of the Total Maximum Daily Load Program and Stephanie Scogan of the Environmental Law Division. Today, the Executive Director is respectfully requesting consideration for final adoption of 2 total maximum daily loads and approval of an implementation plan for indicator bacteria in the Navasota River below Lake Limestone. The TMDLs cover 2 assessment units in one segment within Brazos, Grimes, Leon, Limestone, Madison, and Robertson counties. A stakeholder group was formed with balanced representation of all interested parties and was tasked with providing input on the TMDLs and making decisions regarding the implementation plan. The success of these projects is due to the collaborative effort of the individuals and organizations that put in the time to develop these documents to improve water quality in their communities. The Executive Director respectfully requests the adoption of the total maximum daily loads and approval of the implementation plan. Permission is also requested to make non-substantive and clerical corrections. Thank you, and we're available to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you. I have none. Commissioner Lindley?
No questions either.
Mr. McWhorter?
OPIC recommends adoption of 2 total maximum daily loads for indicator bacteria in the Navasota River below Lake Limestone of the Brazos River Basin and approval of the corresponding implementation plan as presented by the Executive Director.
Thank you. And I want to begin by thanking the Texas Water Resources Institute staff and all the stakeholders for the great work on this project. I think it's appropriate to move forward. I think we've satisfied the Clean Water Act, and this is a good step to put us on a path to meeting water quality standards in these segments.
I agree with all those comments. I move that we adopt the 2 total maximum daily loads and the corresponding implementation plan for indicator bacteria in the Navasota River below Lake Limestone in the Brazos River Basin as recommended by the Executive Director.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 7 is consideration and approval of the TCEQ Chief Auditor's Office Fiscal Year 2020 Audit Plan. The Chief Auditor is here to present the item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Nehrman, Commissioner Lindley, Public Interest Counsel, General Counsel. For the record, my name is Mike Hardison, and I'm the Chief Auditor at the TCEQ. I'm before you today to request approval of our fiscal 2020 audit plan. Chapter 2102 of the Texas Government Code requires that the Chief Auditor prepare a risk-based plan annually. It further requires that the audit plan be approved by the agency's governing board. To develop our audit plan, we completed a risk assessment of agency processes, fees, expenditures, and related information systems. The report before you outlines our risk assessment processes and identifies proposed audit projects for the coming fiscal year. At this time, the Chief Auditor's Office respectfully requests your approval of our fiscal 2020 audit plan, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. I have none. Commissioner Lindley?
No questions. Thanks.
Yeah, I've reviewed the plan. I think it's appropriate for our needs at this time. So I'll move that we approve the Chief Auditor's Fiscal Year 2020 audit plan.
I second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thanks, Mike.
Items 8 through 11 are consideration of the fiscal year 2020 proposed assessment for annual costs of operations of the Concho River Watermaster Program, the Rio Grande Water Division, the South Texas Water Division, and the Brazos Watermaster Program. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning. I'm not sure we can hear you. Let's maybe, yeah, there we go.
Thank you. I'll start over. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. My name is Lori Garris. I am the Watermaster Section Manager with the Water Availability Division. With me today is Shay Pearson with the Environmental Law Division. Staff is here to request the approval of the fiscal year 2020 assessments for the 4 Watermaster areas, the Brazos, the Concho River, the Rio Grande, and the South Texas Watermaster programs. We have prepared the budgets and assessments necessary to cover the cost of the Watermaster programs and have provided this information to the Watermaster advisory committees for all 4 areas. This year, the staff were able to reduce the assessments across much of the operating budgets to offset the purchase of fleet vehicles in the Concho, Rio Grande, and South Texas programs. As a result, the overall increases in the budgets were small for the Concho and South Texas programs and decreased for the Rio Grande program. Brazos increased slightly. The budgets and assessment breakdowns were reviewed by each of the respective Watermaster advisory committees. All 4 Watermaster advisory committees voted to recommend approving the respective figures as proposed. The assessments before you are based on the proposed budgets. As required by statute, we mailed 2 public notices to every affected water right holder to encourage participation in the Watermaster Advisory Committee meetings, as well as in today's agenda hearing. In addition, these figures have been discussed with TCEQ's budget and planning staff. Thank you. We are available for any questions.
Thank you. I have none. Commissioner Lindley
No questions, thank you.
and Mr. McWhorter.
OPIC recommends approval of the assessments of annual costs for these Watermaster programs as presented by the Executive Director.
Thank you. And I think we should follow the recommendations of the Watermaster Advisory Committees and the Executive Director and OPIC and go ahead and approve these budgets.
I agree. I move that we approve the Concho River, Rio Grande, South Texas, and Brazos Watermaster budgets for fiscal year 2020 and issue the Executive Director's 4 proposed orders assessing the annual cost of those Watermaster programs.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 12 is the consideration of material changes to contracts for goods and services awarded under Chapter 2155 of the Texas Government Code, executed during the previous quarter. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lindley, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Chris Gobert, Procurement and Contract Manager of the Financial Administration Division. I have with me Aaron Stokes and Roger Doobie of the Financial Administration Division. We are representing the Executive Director. This item contains the material changes made to contracts and purchases for goods and services between March 1st, 2019 through May 31st, 2019. Related material changes include extensions of contract or completion of work for 6 months or more, an increase in consideration of 10% or more. In accordance with Section 2155.088 of the Government Code, the Executive Director presents these items for your consideration. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. I have none. Commissioner Lindley?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. McWhorter?
OPIC recommends approval of the resolution acknowledging material changes to contracts for goods and services as presented by the Executive Director.
I agree. I think these changes are appropriate, and I think we should approve issuance of the resolution.
I agree. With that, I move that we approve issuance of the Executive Director's proposed resolution that acknowledges the material changes to contracts for goods and services in accordance with Section 2155.088 of the Texas Government Code for the period of March 1st, 2019 to May 31st, 2019, as described in the TCEQ Interoffice Memorandum to the Commissioners and Executive Director dated July 29, 2019, and docket number 2019-0965-MIS.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the enforcement docket, items 13 through 28. The executive director's staff is here to present these matters. There are no interested persons signed in.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Janice Hernandez, and I am the Litigation Division Agenda Coordinator. With me today are Charmaine Backens, also of the Litigation Division, and Brian Sinclair and Melissa Cordell of the Enforcement Division, representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 13 through 28. The total assessed administrative penalties are $278,620, with $27,862 deferred. $104,524 applied towards supplemental environmental projects, and $146,234 to the general revenue. The Executive Director respectfully requests approval of these items. We're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I have none. Commissioner Lindley?
No questions today. Thank you.
Mr. McWhorter?
My office reviewed these items, and we recommend approval of the orders as presented by the Executive Director.
And I agree with that, and I'll entertain a motion.
I agree. I move that we adopt items 13 through 28 as recommended today by the Executive Director.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And item number 29 is the consideration of the monthly enforcement report, and the executive director's staff is here to present the item.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. My name is Melissa Cordell of the Enforcement Division, and with me is Brian Sinclair of the Enforcement Division and Charmaine Backens and Janice Hernandez of the Litigation Division. We are here to present the monthly enforcement report for fiscal year 2019 through June. There are 1,040 effective administrative orders issued, and of those, 124 contain supplemental environmental projects. These orders assess a total of $9,768,673 in penalties, with a payable amount of $6,088,046. $2,182,240 are to be paid towards supplemental environmental projects. 14,416 notices of violation have been issued through either our field offices or review of self-reported data in our central office, and 1,420 enforcement action referrals have been received. There are 1,646 pending administrative orders, with 114 cases that are on the backlog. 199 cases are pending at the Attorney General's Office for representation in district court, and 25 judgments have been issued. 2,047 cases are being tracked for compliance. We have included for review a summary of OCE investigative activities for fiscal years 2017, 18, and 19. We are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I have none. Commissioner Lindley?
I also have none.
Mr. McWhorter, any observations?
I have no questions. I appreciate the report.
I appreciate the report as well. Thank you.
Items 30 through 34 are the quadrennial rule reviews for chapters 5, 118, 291, 304, and 315 of Title 30 Texas Administrative Code. And the executive director's staff is here to present the matter.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner, General Counsel, and Office of Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Chris Hogan from the General Law Division, and with me today is Alicia Ramirez from the Environmental Law Division. representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 30 through 34, the adopted rules reviews of 30 TAC, Chapters 5, 118, 291, 304, and 315. As required by Texas Government Code Section 2001.039, Executive Director staff conducted reviews of these chapters to determine if the need for the rules within these chapters continue to exist. The proposed notices of the reviews are published in the March 15th, 2019 issue of the Texas Register. The public comment period for these reviews closed on April 15th, 2019. No comments were received during the public comment period for these reviews. Based on the review of these chapters, the Executive Director has determined that reasons for the rules continue to exist. We respectfully recommend approval of the adoption of the rules, reviews of 30 TAC, Chapters 5, 118, 291, 304, and 315. Additionally, staff requests authorization to make non-substantive revisions necessary to comply with Texas Register requirements. Thank you. The project managers and attorneys assigned to each of these chapters are here with us to answer any questions.
Thank you. And I have no questions. Commissioner
I have no
Lindley?
questions either. Thanks, Chris.
Mr. McWhorter?
OPIC recommends adoption of these reviews and readoption of these chapters as presented by the Executive Director.
And I agree with that. And
I agree.
would entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the rule reviews and readopt the rules in 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapters 5, 118, 291, 304, and 315 without amendment.
The motion has been made. I second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thanks.
Items 35 through 38 are for consideration in closed session. The commission will meet in closed session in Building E, Room 211S at 10:45, as permitted by the Open Meetings Act, including Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.074, to take up and consider matters pursuant to items number 35 through 38 as posted and noticed.
The time is 10:43. We stand in recess. We are back in open session, having met in executive session. The time is 10:52, excuse me. And I think we're prepared to vote on salary action for the executive director.
I will make a motion. I move that we approve a raise for the executive director's salary to the amount in House Bill 1, the General Appropriations Act, to be effective September 1st, 2019.
The motion has been made. I second it. Any discussion?
No?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. The time is now 10:53. Oh,
The commission met solely on item 35 through 38, or met on items 35 through 38 as posted, and no action was taken other than this action here in the open meeting.
the time is 10:53 and we are adjourned.